What better way to start a controversial conversation than to just jump right into it? So the conversation that I feel needs to be brought up, that's not talked about enough, is when people overdose on drugs. When people slit their wrists, when they cut wherever it might be on their body. I feel like people are so quick to pass judgment once they hear the words like drugs or whatever it might be. For instance, if someone overdoses on a drug, say that maybe people didn't know what happened at first and they felt really bad about it and everything, and then once they find out, oh, they overdosed, then all of a sudden their empathy is gone. They have no more sympathy. Like, they say, well, they did it to themselves. They chose to do this. And I have never messed with any strong drugs. Like, the only drugs I've ever messed with, and I don't want to say messed with because I don't mean messed with. There is literally a piece of hair stuck in my lip gloss and I cannot find it. Might need a intermission. Found it. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway. Seriously though, once they find out that the person died from overdosing on a drug, people start to say, well, that's their own fault. Well, they knew what they were doing when they either stuck the needle in or swallowed the pills or whatever the case may be. They completely change how they view the person. They never take the time to look at that person's perspective on why that happened in the first place. They never take the time to think about, okay, what made them get into drugs in the first place? What made them decide that they felt the need to continue to either inject or take the medication, drug, whatever it might be? And I'm going to be honest with you. I have thought about overdosing on my prescribed drugs, basically. Basically, they're drugs. That's why I never wanted to get on them. I never wanted to do any of it because I just don't trust myself, really. And if you've seen other videos, you know, like, I have no choice but to be on them. The anxiety got so bad from the PTSD that I have now. Depression, just everything. But that's beside the point. I'll get to that eventually, but what I want to make clear is that someone at some point gave these people the access to these drugs. And if someone is feeling, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's depression, maybe it's PTSD, maybe it's bipolar, maybe it's not even necessarily a mental illness. Maybe it's something that's like regret, guilt, embarrassment, humiliation, anger. It could be anything. It could even just be sadness. Okay? And if they have access to a drug, chances are they're going to take that drug until either one, they don't feel anything anymore, or two, until they do feel something. And a lot of times, like, say someone takes pills, a lot of times people start to take those pills and then they realize, oh my god, what did I just do? And it's too late. Do you ever stop and think about that? It's not that it's something attention seeking. It's not even necessarily trying to get people to understand how serious you are about it. Sometimes it really truly is just a matter of being able to either, like I said, either one, forget about things, or two, feel something. Because sometimes you just feel so numb with everything that's going on. Sometimes you feel so overwhelmed with everything. And if you have that drug, you're going to reach out to it. Because sometimes, honestly, you might feel like you have no one. You might feel like the only thing you have is that drug. I could never understand drug usage until I felt so overwhelmed, so stressed out, so depressed, so anxious all the time, just repeating and repeating and repeating over and over and over and over and over in my mind, about certain situations, about certain conversations, about just everything. Like, I can remember things from preschool that bother me. I can remember things from kindergarten that bother me. I can remember getting screamed at in first grade, like stuff like that. Second grade, I remember all of these things. I have phobias that push me over the edge because they are so irrational that, like, nobody really seems to be able to relate to until I Google and Google and Google, and still when I Google, I can't find anyone that can actually relate. And when it comes to drugs, and really even alcohol, if you haven't noticed, there's a community based around it. And obviously the preferred side is like when you're actually recovering and everything, but at least here in this area, drugs are such a huge thing, and people don't stop and think, what if it's laced? That's another thing too. Like, I'm not condoning drugs, please don't take that away from this video. But sometimes when people are so desperate to feel something and that's all they have, sometimes they might be by themselves and they might not know that it was laced. And sometimes they might either take the pills or inject the drug, whatever the case may be, and then they realize, oh my god, something is wrong, something is happening, I don't want to die, how do I get out of this? And sometimes they can't, and sometimes it's too late. And I'm going to get emotional, I'm telling you that right now, because I used to be the way that a lot of people are, where it's like, it's so sad when people who are like young or, you know, whatever, when they die, you know, and then when you realize, oh, it was drugs. I'm not gonna lie, like, I used to think to myself, well, why would they do that in the first place, you know? But like, I've had 2 people now who I was like kind of remotely close to, you know, it just, when you know that you obviously, I don't even know how to word it, you don't know what was going through the person's mind exactly, you don't know, but when you have a pretty decent idea of it and you can try to see from their perspective and you realize, okay, I could understand why they might have done it when they did it, the drug part, not the overdosing or if it was laced or whatever happened, but when you know that they realized like something was not right and something was happening and they couldn't save themselves in time because of the drug and everything, it is heart shattering. It literally breaks my heart. And I'll just keep replaying it in my head over and over again. I will get panic attacks because I feel like, I know I obviously couldn't have done anything because I wasn't there. I didn't know it was happening, but it's 2 people who have helped me in ways that you wouldn't realize. And in both situations, that's why I'm like talking about this, because those who are using drugs, I really, really, truly wish that you would consider some other type of coping mechanism to get through. And I know it's an addiction, it can become one, you know, I understand that. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite talking about drugs because, like I said, I've never done it, but I'm trying my best to see the perspective from that person, because being that it's been 2 people now who have helped me through stages of my life, and I don't think they ever even knew it, and I never got the chance to thank them, they might not have realized just how much they meant to people. And honestly, they might have just been going through stuff and it might have just happened, you know? But like, I feel guilt, and I, like, there was literally nothing I could have done, and it just makes me wish that I would have known to reach out to these people. It makes me wish that I would have known just what they were going through to try to prevent them from even getting themselves into the situation in the first place. But as someone who has had two people who have been close enough to have made an impact on my life who have died from drugs, it probably is just recently too. It is heartbreaking. And the only thing that I really want to make clear about this is when I see people say, how could you do this to me? Because it's been with both of them. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to your family? How could you do this to your friends? Whatever the case is, they didn't necessarily mean to do it. And like I said, I'm not being a hypocrite. I have never even tried drugs like that. Like, no, that I can't. And for as bad as things have gotten in my life, I still have not turned to drugs. Thankfully, I am so thankful, because I honestly know that it would turn into an addiction for me if I ever did. Because if I ever felt even the slightest bit of like relief from the mind, and if I felt like my mind finally turned off and it was finally like somewhere else, I would continue to do it. I know I would. And it just hurts me when people say this. And it's not even just when it's drugs. It's suicide in general, or overdoses in general, you know, like with drugs. Because sometimes people do it on purpose with the drugs, and sometimes it's not on purpose at all, and they even might try to save themselves, and they literally just can't. It's too late. And it absolutely breaks my heart into so many pieces. So when it is suicide though, just in general, when people say, how could you do this? Or even when it's just drugs in general, how could you do this? Sometimes it's the people who look like they're the happiest, the people who look like they have the most friends and family, and they look happy all the time. They're always making jokes, they're always making other people smile and laugh, always helping other people get through the day. Sometimes it's them, and none of us would have seen it coming, ever. And that's what hurts the most when I see people say, like, how could you do this? Because I don't think they necessarily meant to. I truly believe that they didn't mean to. I think, and again, I can't speak for people, especially who aren't here anymore. I can't speak for them, but just trying to be a voice for those who are still here. Sometimes, and this is still not an excuse to use drugs, because I'm like begging, if you do, to please stop, or if you don't, to please not start. Like, I am begging you not to. Sometimes the mind becomes so overwhelmed that you are desperate for relief. I mean desperate. And I have been there, but like I said, I haven't had access to the drugs. Now, had I had the drugs around, I probably would have tried it and seen what happened, but I never have. I hope I never will, because I can't imagine. I can't. But the point that I just am trying to make is, with drugs, with suicide, with overdoses, with even so much as suicidal thoughts, like all of, you know, I've worded that in the wrong order, but if you're on drugs, if you have suicidal thoughts, okay, that's here. Or if you, like, suicide did occur, or if an overdose did occur, all four of these things, like, one is on the way to the second set of, you know, it's like one leads to this, this leads to this. That probably made no sense, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It does not necessarily come from a place of wanting to die. And I want to make this perfectly clear. There are so many times that we don't know about where suicides have happened, or overdoses have happened, or whatever it may be, where they didn't want to actually do it. No matter what way of suicide, no matter what way of killing themselves, no matter what way, like whether it was intentional or not, we don't know how many of those times that people wish they didn't do it. Sometimes it's just too late and it happens. Sometimes it's regret, like, immediately, because you feel like This is speaking from my own experience here about suicide. When you feel overwhelmed to the point where you're like, you know what, I just want to be dead. I don't want to feel anything anymore. I feel like all of the best days are gone and behind me, and I feel like the only thing ahead of me are the worst days of my life yet to come. That's when you feel like, okay, I'm done here. I'm done. I just want to die, whatever, okay? I have been lucky enough to have reality checks literally punch me in the face and be like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Like, you know that there are better days coming. You know that. So why are you even thinking this way? Why are you even acting this way? Why are you even talking this way? But it just happens because that's how the chemicals are in my brain, and I'm still working on getting those adjusted, okay? So when someone does kill themselves, whether it be intentional or unintentional, we never truly know the truth. Sometimes they wish they could have taken back swallowing that bottle of pills. Sometimes they wish they could take back sticking that needle in their arm. Sometimes they wish that they didn't kick the chair, you know? Sometimes they wish they didn't pull the trigger. Sometimes it's too late because they feel so overwhelmed and so empty, and like something's missing that they're never gonna get. Like there's this void that they are never going to fill. Like all of their best days are gone and all of the worst days are to come. And it could be living in fear, it could be so many things. But this is why suicide awareness is so important, and it does include drug overdoses. It does include, I just got chills. I really just got chills. Okay. I'm just trying like to be a voice for those who didn't make it, who I know really wanted to make it. I have chills literally all over me right now. I don't know what you believe in. I don't know, but like, wow, that just got me. Just we need to start having empathy. We need to start seeing people for who they are. We need to start seeing people for what they're going through. We need to start being there. Not just saying that we're there for someone if they need us. We need to be there. We need to prove that we are there. That's what we need to start doing. These deaths that are happening all around us, whether it be actual suicide, fully intended with a suicide note left behind, or whether it be an accidental suicide, an accidental overdose, an accidental, just all of it, okay? We need to stop this. Enough is enough. Too many people are losing their families, their friends, their loved ones, people who they could never imagine their life without. Too many people are losing these other people who are going through so much that we can't even imagine. We need to stop judging, and we need to start caring, and we need to be there. We need to be there, or it's going to continue to happen. And I refuse to keep letting this happen. I refuse. That's what this is all about. I refuse. The vulnerability, the speaking up, the being voices for people who don't quite have their voice yet. That's what I'm trying to do here. That's all I'm trying to do here. This is really like starting to actually shatter my heart all over again. So I need to stop with this video right now for my own mental health and everything because I'm getting emotional. So please stop being so judgmental about suicide, people with suicidal thoughts in general, people who are doing drugs, people who have an alcohol problem, all of it. They need your help. They need our help. They need everyone's help around them. The isolation needs to stop. Like, we need to help people who don't know how to help themselves, who might not be willing to reach out for help, especially from a professional. It has to come from us. We need to be there for each other, or this is going to keep happening over and over and over again. And I know you're not going to actually get this message. I know you're not going to actually understand unless it's happened to you. But you know what? Like, perspective is everything. It is. It truly is. Like, I mean, when I heard about it being drugs with these past two people, the first thing that came to my mind was I was just completely heartbroken, especially knowing they, again, can't speak for them, but knowing that they didn't actually want to die. They probably were just trying to numb pain or feel something else, or just feel like they can escape for a minute, not realizing that they were not going to be able to come back from that. It breaks my heart, it shatters my heart, and we need to be there for each other, and we need to help each other so this stops happening. Please, start being nice, stop judging, and start being there for each other.